Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us at e-KLESF 2022. I'm Dr. Ong Kia Ju from University Tunku Abdul Rahman, Utah. Today, Dr. Maitreyi Subramaniam will be presenting a webinar titled The Relationship of Art, Creativity, and the Human Brain. Dr. Mai is an Associate Dean as well as a Senior Lecturer at the Faculty of Communication and Creative Industries, Tunku Abdul Rahman University of Management and Technology, TAR UNT. Just a little housekeeping before we start. If you have any questions, please type them in the chat box. We will bring them up during the Q&A session at the end of this webinar. Dear participants, please sign your attendance in the link posted in the chat box. Without further delay, let us turn the time over to Dr. Mai.
Okay, hi. MC, can you hear me clear?
Yes, I can.
All right. All right. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Would like to actually present a topic. Let me hang on. Okay, so I would like to present a topic today. I'm Dr. Maitreyi. I'm actually be presenting the topic called the relationship of art, creativity, and the human brain. Right, so moving on. So what we have here, okay, we can not always build a future for our youth, but we can build our youth for the future. This is by Franklin D. Roosevelt. Roosevelt is actually the 32nd American president who actually contributed directed the federal government during the most great depression or the Black Day in implementing the New Deal for the domestic agenda in the response to the world's economic crisis that happened in the US history. All right, so basically, he built the New Deal coalition, which has the modern liberalism in the United States throughout the middle third of 20th century. This is why he used a lot of thinking to understand the importance of where we can actually build our youth for the future. So moving on to the next one, all right, we have Alvin Toffler. So Alvin Toffler is actually an American writer, futurist, and a businessman. So he says here, the illiterates of the 21st century are not those who cannot read or write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. So there he actually discussed about his work, mainly discussed a lot on modern technologies such as digital revolution and the communication revolution, with emphasis of their effects on cultures worldwide. So he is one to be regarded the most outstanding futurist of the 21st century, all right, where he was the proponent for futurists, and he actually came up with a theory which is called the third wave theory, the third wave society theory. So in his theory, Toffler is actually explained that the changes and thus shaping the coming of the new type of society in the future should be mainly focusing on knowledge and technology. Here, he also emphasizes the thinking. So Alvin Toffler also emphasizes how human beings should be thinkers rather than being directed to what to do. So, all right. So moving on. So how does the human brain works? How does our the highly visual brain interact with a world where it learns not only how to think, but how to create? So how do the arts contribute to learning across the curriculum, whether it be to be the science, the math, the history, could be geography, and the creativity. So all this can actually happen where humans can actually start doing sketches, drawing, and creating something. Okay, so moving on. So this is how the biological brain works. All right, so the biological brain, as human being, we have senses. So we have 5 senses, which is the smell. The type of sensory output is olfactory molecular experience, which is through your nose. Hearing, vibrations through air or ear. And then you have touch, which is a tactile contact, which is your feeling and which has to do with skin. Taste, oral contact with chemicals, which is your tongue. And then you have your sight, which is visible light, eyes. So all these actually found to be a perceptual convergence, where you get it in a very single experience, where it's all these senses are integrated together. So as human being, we have senses where the senses actually gives signal to the brain. Moving on. So what you can see here, all right, this is the cone of experience introduced by Edgar Dale. All right, so you have this pyramidal structure where you have the top, which is passive learning. So you can see that passive learning is reading, hearing, seeing, see and hear. This is all we actually are passive learning. To understand to be an active learning, human brain will be able to say and write and do. So you have about 70 to 90% of active learning, all right, where we can, as human, we can analyze, we can define, we can create, and we can evaluate. So we use our senses to gather and respond to information about our environment, okay, which is aids our survival. This happens every single day in our life. So each senses provides different information, which is combined with and interpreted by our brain. So moving on to the next one. So this part I'm actually including sciences, how sciences work together with the arts. So why is hands-on learning is effective? So this is on a development neurobiology. So in this digital age, it is very, very critical for any educators. Okay, remember that our 10 digits on student's hand is the first human digital device. You can't compare to a calculator. Calculator is human-made, but being a human digital device, there we go, we have 10 fingers here, where we will start teaching the children math by calculation, all right, calculating using their fingers. Okay, so neurobiology is actually relate to our nervous system, and of course it actually gives indication how the brain works. So the field studies nervous system function, brain function, and related structures such as spinal cord. It does relate to our spinal cord as well. So neurobiology is actually a subset of both physiology and neuroscience. Perspective from developmental neuroscience provide actually a very strong foundation of understanding and developmental of cognitive abilities, emotions, and behaviors during childhood and adolescence. And this is certainly valuable opportunities for novel advances in future prevention research. So we have this, what we call neurobiology. Moving on, so what you can see here, a visual of a woman who's actually painting. So her brain is actually giving the signal. This is controlled by the motor cortex, which is controlled by cerebellum. So the cerebellum is actually located at the back of our brain beneath the optical lobus. So it is actually separated from the cerebellum by the tentorium. Okay, so this cerebellum is actually a fine-tuned motor, all right, activity or movement. Example, like fine movements of fingers for, like, for example, doctors will use, they want to perform surgery, or the painter, the artist here, who's actually painting a picture. So this is how the development neurobiology takes place, all right? So moving on. So the development of neurobiology relates to the arts as well, because if science needs the neurobiology, the arts also works that way. So the brain regions that are dynamically engaged during art include, first thing, you look at how the primary visual cortex works. Okay, the primary visual cortex, it's meant for vision. The frontal lobes for decision making. The premotor areas for planning physical actions. The motor cortex for physical development. The temporal lobe for memory, the limbic system, the emotional centers, the association areas for visual sensory motor integration. So we need all this in the arts. we need the science need the arts. So we need this tool in the development of neurobiology. Okay, moving on. All right, I would like to introduce a very significant world genius, which I call Leonardo da Vinci, who's actually, I'm sure most of y'all are familiar with him, all right, who's the Renaissance man. So being an Italian polymath of the high Renaissance, he became a painter before he was actually went into become an engineer or a scientist or an architect or an theorist. So the visual that I'm actually showing now, all right, this is where he actually discovered through his drawings, through his innovation, through his sketches, all right, he actually, what we call now cholesterol, all right, this is what he called it, an excessive nourishment. This was actually found by Da Vinci through his sketches before the medical actually took over. So you could see, apart from all this, he also have investigating the motion of the arm. He studied about anatomical studies. This is through the sketches and through his drawings. Like I told you, apart being, I'm very sure you're very familiar with Leonardo da Vinci's The Last Supper, Mona Lisa, all right? But apart from his paintings, because he became the artist first, he also did a lot of significant research notes, including studying about anatomy. He worked on astronomy, botany, cartography, and paleontography. So Leonardo becomes a genius. Why? Because he was optimized to be the Renaissance humanist deal. As human being, he knows, as a human being, we should be able to be thinkers, all right? So he was, of course, the greatest painters of the history of art. And of course, he was credited to the founder of the High Renaissance, where he's known to be the Renaissance man. So I will show a video on his innovation, where engineering, apart from multiple background, used his innovations, although it was not a boom, but they got the idea from Da Vinci. Let me stop sharing my screen, and I will be able to actually share screen on the video. Sorry, I share my Google Meet. Sorry, just give me a sec. I will be able to share sound. All right. So you're able to watch what actually Da Vinci's discovery, where the engineers actually use the artist's innovation in their research.
In Tuscany, Italy, Leonardo da Vinci would grow up to become one of the greatest minds of all time. He was a highly talented artist, sculptor, visionary, and a self-taught engineering genius. But while most people have heard about Da Vinci's famous works of art, like the Mona Lisa or the Last Supper, they may be less familiar with this equally well-developed part of his persona. Before his death in 1519, Da Vinci would develop many revolutionary concepts and inventions that were centuries ahead of his time. So prolific was his work that it is difficult for many to believe one man could produce so much in one lifetime. And yet he did. He was driven by his desire to understand how nature works. This desire would fuel his quest to invent and experiment, leading to his remarkable insights into the workings of the natural world. Da Vinci's proficiency as an artist also allowed him to sketch out and plan his inventions and engineering ideas in great detail. So clear were many of his diagrams and blueprints that we are able to use them to build working replicas of his inventions today. It should be noted that many artists of Da Vinci's time also had side gigs as architects and engineers, yet Da Vinci was certainly one of the most skilled. In fact, he was employed as a bona fide engineer for many years in Milan in the late 15th century. One notable example was his work on the military defenses of Milan during the 1480s. Aware that the ruler of Milan, Duke Sforza, was looking to employ military engineers, Leonardo drafted an application letter that included a 10-point list of his engineering abilities. In case of a siege, I know how to dry up the water of the moats and how to construct an infinite number of bridges, covered ways, scaling ladders, and other machines for this type of enterprise, he wrote. It worked, and he was eventually employed as an engineer. A decade later, Sforza would commission him to paint the Last Supper. Leonardo was only 30 years old at the time and would continue to work in Milan as a military engineer for 17 years. In 1502, he was appointed as chief military engineer for the Borgia. During this time, he studied many of the existing instruments of war and designed some new weapons of his own. He famously developed designs for some of the earliest concepts of tanks, submarines, and even a primitive auto-firing gun, although these were never built. Among many other designs, in 1495, he detailed plans for a three-wheeled, wind-up, self-moving automobile that has also been called the first robot. Da Vinci also had a strong understanding of levers, gears, cranes, hydraulics, ball bearings, as well as a basic grasp of the physics of flight. So what are some of Leonardo da Vinci's greatest contributions to engineering? Well, as you're about to find out, they are pretty significant. For example, he is often referred to as the first systems engineer. Through his work, he was able to create a new way of looking at and understanding how machines work. We'll let the curators at the Boston Museum of Science explain further. He reasoned that by understanding how each separate machine part worked, he could modify them and combine them in different ways to improve existing machines or create inventions no one had ever seen before. To this end, his notebooks are crammed with systemic explanations of how each component in his inventions combined to make them work as a whole. This was revolutionary for his age. Most of his greatest thoughts and studies were written in a body of work called the Codex Leicester. This is currently owned by Bill Gates, although it is on display at the Seattle Art Museum and has been fully digitized for the public to view at their leisure online. Within the Codex and his 30 or so other journals are illustrations of discoveries well ahead of their time. One of the smallest of the journals is the Codex Forester, which dates to between 1490 and 1493 and contains notes on geometry, weights, mechanics, and hydraulic mechanisms. Another work contains up to 200 pages about the nature of mechanics, as well as a detailed guide on building a foundry to create an enormous metal horse. Da Vinci also made detailed studies in structural engineering. One example was his work on the concept of arc rupture, a previously understudied field. He made detailed sketches and treatises on the breaking strength of an arch, including developing our understanding of the line of thrust. Da Vinci also made detailed scientific studies of the nature and strength of building materials. But this wasn't just theoretical work. He also found work as an architect and adopted many of his findings into the design of the churches of Milan. Many of these churches still awe bystanders and structural engineers today. Another major development, as previously mentioned, was his study of the field of hydraulics. While working on the canals of the Arno and Lombardy regions, Leonardo da Vinci made some detailed studies on the nature of water pressure. From his work, it is widely believed that he invented the hydrometer, a device used today to measure the specific gravity of water. He is also credited with the invention of the odometer. While crude, it was perfectly functional and enabled him to create accurate maps. Modern versions of this device can be found in most forms of transportation today. But these are just some of his great works. The vast majority of his designs were never publicly published, financed, or built. In fact, some of his inventions would not have been able to be realized at the time because the technology needed to construct them did not exist. It would take centuries of technological advances for these ideas to become anything but fantasy. Leonardo's theoretical and practical work in engineering would greatly influence later engineers and earn him the mantle of first engineer of the modern era.
All right. All right, I will go through another slide. I'll continue sharing my slide. All right, so you watched a 6 minutes video of what Da Vinci's discovery for the engineering. All right, so like I told you, in fact, cholesterol was actually founded by him before the medical took over. This is all done through his drawings, sketches. Okay, moving on to the next one. So we look into there are 5 elements when you talk about human brain. Actually, it seeks while processing incoming stimuli for a personal meaning, which makes information memorable and worth remembering. So what we call here, okay, you have the patterns derived from visual experience, you have emotions, you have relevance, context, content, cognitively appropriate, sense making, where all these will be worth it's an information that is memorable and worth remembering. So all these 5 elements, they actually function, they become the 5 primary criteria for transfer into long-term memory storage. Okay, so what you can see on the screen here, all right, is actually what we call visual perception. So at this point of time, what you see on the screen, I believe your brain gives you the signal. So visual perception is the brain's ability to receive, interpret, and act upon a visual stimuli. So on this screen, I'm actually showing to you a visual where you can identify a tree, you could see birds, you could see a lion, a tiger, you could see a gorilla, and at the bottom you'll see the fishes that is actually jumping out of the water. So this is where your brain is being through your senses, which your eyes will actually give signal to the brain. So look into the next one. All right, so if you could see on this visual, again, visual perception shows the bears are hugging. The other one, all right, shows a face of 2 human beings, and in the middle, there is a vase. So this is why you call a visual perception, because through your eyes, brain is being given signal to perceive, all right? So visual perception is the ability to interpret what's happening in surrounding, not only through visuals, what is actually happening in our daily life, all right? Through photocopic vision, all right, color vision, scotopic vision, and mesopic vision, all right, using light in the visible spectrum reflected by objects in the environment. All right, so I would like to talk about on children, because children, they are our future generation, all right? So Picasso, a very significant artist of the modern artists, Cubism, he actually spoken about every child is an artist. The problem is to remain as an artist once they grow. So that means when in a younger age, the child's development of thinking develops, but at one point of their life, it just stops. There should be some reason for it. Okay, so we'll take a look into on how children brains develop through the artistic development. So these are called the stages of drawing development, which was discovered by Dr. Victor Lowenfeld. So Lowenfeld is actually an Austrian-born professor of art education at the Pennsylvania State University. So his ideas was actually highly influenced many art educators in America in the post-war during that period of time. So in particular, he actually realized that emphasize ways in where children at different stages of their artistic development should be stimulated with the appropriate media, theme, and certainly the curriculum. So this is actually guided mainly by the development consideration that involves a lot on cognition. So if you have in 1947, Dr. Victor Lowenfield actually published this book called Creative and Mental Growth. So this book was a very significant book for a lot of art educators across the world. In fact, I do have a copy on this, where Lowenfield actually argued that there are 6 clear definition on the stages of artistic development that you can actually witness in children. So every age, there's a particular age where the child develops, the brain develops. So this is where you could see the cognitive development. So the stage number 1, we have the scribbling stage that is actually between 1 to 3 years old. This is actually drawing of my daughter. So at this age, the child is actually very much physical, has a physical activity of drawing. So this is the age where I noticed my daughter who's actually have so much of enjoyment of purely making marks. All right, then the later part, all right, on the next level, which is on the pre-schematic stage, all right. So on this pre-schematic stage, between the 3 to 4 years old, so my daughter actually, I tested on her development, taking her development, so her brain development. So at this age, there was some kind of connections between shapes, but where I call the shapes here that represents more of a very much scientific kind of shape. All right, so they actually try to connect shapes and they draw what they see things around them. All right, so they use like circles, lines, and they relate to describe people or objects that's around them. So this is where I got my children, both my children to draw a happy family. So each of them have, both of them when they were young, so I tested them. So they expressed it a different way, but that is how they express with lines and circle. So the next stage, in the schematic stage, all right, where this particular stage is what you call schema, all right, 5 to 6 years old child who actually can identify, clearly can identify the shape, and he or she will attempt to communicate. So this kind of drawings, which is, we call it as schema, all right, that's where you can see this kind of drawing is very much clear, where there will be some kind of separation, where there'll be sky and ground. So on the ground, you could see that usually they will put a strip of green at the bottom. Usually when they have sky, either they draw with rain or blue sky. This is very common between 5 to 6 years old child. And the next one, okay, when you look into the next schemata drawing, which is you call the dawning realism between the age 7 to 9 years old. So children at this age become more critical. So they will actually try to structure their drawing better as what you saw compared to the 5 to 6 years old. So the schema is still what you will be used, but becomes much more complex. All right. Moving on to the next stage, all right, this is certainly my daughter's drawing, all right, when she was 10 to 13 years old, all right, this is what you call the pseudo-naturalistic stage. At this stage, a child will start to apply value, work on lights, all right, very apparent in this drawing. So basically, they become very critical with their own success. Of course, they involve a lot of frustration getting the proportions right, but you could see that this is very important to encourage a child to draw in order for her or for him to develop their thinking, cognitive ability. So next on, all right, at stage 6, all right, you could see that at this stage, which is the period of decision stage, where the children between the age 14 to 16 years old, all right, they actually a stage of life where they be done or they left alone, All right, so they become very conscious and they will improvise a lot on their drawing skills because of their cognitive development has enhanced. All right, so students become very critically aware of the immaturity of their drawing and are easily discouraged. So basically, children at this age to be highly encouraged so that their cognitive development will continuously develop. All right, so moving on to the next one. So what you could see on my screen here, the drawing initial writing connection, whether the child basically draws first, the child doesn't write. All right. So when the child draws, basically the child is actually forming alphabets. So many parents will say, my daughter, I don't want my daughter to draw, but you want your daughter to learn better, you get your child to draw first. So in order to that, this is where the connection, what you could see, the shaped circle is actually from develops alphabet C. All right. So this is where you can actually see the drawing, which is actually the initial of writing connection. Okay. So art is actually will also use for learning to reading because drawing and the brain works very, very close. So if you look into a child, when the child reads a storybook, basically art actually trains the kids' communication and interpretation skills, which boosts their reading comprehension. So students who actually really study art will observe things better than those students who don't really take art as a very important subject, because art develops a lot of sensitivity, perception within the surroundings. Yeah. All right, moving on. Okay, we have the art, creativity, and the human brain. So what you could see here, when taught to generate mental images as they read, students typically, they have a very greater recall and they enhance abilities to draw inferences and make predictions. This was already in the brain. Everything becomes visual. All right, it could be science, it works visual. It could be math, it works visually. It could be technology, it works visually. All right, so moving on. When drawing works, okay, drawing does what we do for drawing. All right, drawing does for the brain during day, but when we dream, with the dreaming does the brain at night. So basically, when we dream visually. We draw visually. So you could see the expression of children when they actually draw. The world is basically visual. All right. So moving on. So indeed, if art, creativity, and the human brain, if I can, okay, let's say if I mentally visualize a concept, then I will tend to discuss the images. This is what I'm able to do, discuss the images that I see inside my mind's eyes. The next one, when you discuss the images orally, I tend to draw, I would tend to sketch, or I tend to paint. So then next one, to illustrate, so where I would be able to process it on a very symbolic level, all right, and then process my symbols, understand how other similar representation forms work, and then to understand the various processes, it will be actually through your abstract ideas representation, and your whole abstract ideas, in order to understand, you'll be able to understand what others mean in my mind when describing it. So number 7, understand what others mean verbally, read what others write about the concept. So we think visually. All right. Okay. So now I would like to actually talk about how the art, creativity, and the human brain deals together. So we have the art, which is collaborated with science. Art collaborates with engineering. Art can work well with technology, and art works very well with mathematics. So this is where I call the relationship between science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics. All right. So we will look into the first part. All right. This is where science meets the art. So when you look into this visual, all right, this is where you call this is actually findings in America under the National Museum of Natural History, the Intervertebrate Zoology Department. They've mainly focused about artistic creativity to display its frequently minute, sometimes they found that the profound ocean living and always strange organisms, art is actually found it to be very, very crucial for science in the department and throughout museums, where from teaching curious museums and contributing creativity to the scientific process. So without art in America, the collection would conceal the unique ocean creatures examined at the museum. So this is where I call when science meet the arts. So what you could see in visual is actually a study at the Intervertebrate Zoology department in the US. This is actually located in the Washington, D.C., where they incorporated science in the arts. All right, when science meet the arts. All right, moving on to the next slide. This is where math meets art. So what you could see on the screen here is actually a mathematical calculation, what we call the Fibonacci numbers and nature. So Fibonacci numbers were also known to be the golden ratio. This Fibonacci sequence are highly used by the mathematicians, artists, designers, and scientists for many, many centuries. So here we use math to actually study about the proportion, all right, where you could see here the equality of the proportion will be 1.618. So when you call this as a golden ratio, this is where the functionality of golden ratio is ubiquity and as founding functionality, where it is actually used and is actually very important to understand the fundamental characteristic of universal. Okay, you could see here on your screen, all right, I have various pictures shown on the screen where it actually shows architecture. We also, the architects use golden ratio. The engineers also work on golden ratio, and you have the visual arts using golden ratio. So if you look into architecture, all this, it could be engineering, could be technology, they all work with golden ratio. So if you look into architecture, the Taj Mahal here, in order to study about the architecture, they use the golden ratio to determine building dimensional relationship between the width of the building and its height, all right? Then you have in engineering design, the golden ratio always plays a significant role in the area of stress analysis of very much on the basic structural elements like columns, beams, domes, which is predicted by elastic theory. So in the visual arts, we do also use golden ratio. Like if you see Leonardo da Vinci's work, Mona Lisa, I believe you are very you are aware of this artist, well-known artwork. So when it comes to the art, it is slightly different. We as artists, we actually use the golden ratio because we want to see it aesthetically pleasing. But I believe architecture, be it engineering, you use golden ratio to have this what we call aesthetic pleasing. So the golden ratio actually can be used in any art and design field where we artists or designers, we want to achieve beauty, balance, and harmony. So there you go. Math is also needed in the arts. I mean, when math meets the art. So what you could see here, some of the use of compass and projectors. So I believe when I was young, I used to learn projectors and use compass. And till today, I'm actually using compass. When I actually have to understand, if I want to make a circle, I need to have my math first to understand the diameter. So I will use all these tools to actually perform in my artwork. So you could see here, all these were actually developed through using projector. This is a mandala work. So in order to draw a circle, we need a compass. But to measure the diameter, definitely we need to use the ruler. So this is where the mathematics comes in for the arts as well, and vice versa. Okay. So this is a very interesting artist, all right, what you can see here, MC Escher, who's actually a Dutch artist. In his artwork, he actually portrayed mathematical relationship among shapes, figures and space, he always tends to integrate his prints very much onto cones, spheres, cubes, rings, and spirals, because we also tend to use math and science in the artwork. So I would like to, I will show a video on where MC Escher with, this is an example on circle limit 3, uses, the media uses woodcut, but you would see in detail how he used math in art. All right, okay, let me stop sharing this. I will show the video on that.
The amazing thing about MC Escher is that he represents the perfect coming together of mathematics and art. These are two different worlds, but in his work they're brought together as one.
Born in the Netherlands in 1898, Maurits Cornelius Escher had no formal training in mathematics. He began his professional life as a graphic artist, making woodcuts and lithographs. As a young man, while visiting the Alhambra in Spain, he became fascinated by the geometric decoration of the Moorish tiles. It would be a defining moment for Escher as an artist. From then on, he would spend much of his life experimenting with an area of mathematics known as tessellation.
Tessellation is about regular patterns that divide the plane. That means that they split the plane up into lots of little tiles, and those tiles fit together perfectly. They don't overlap and they don't leave any gaps. It may seem that the premise of tiling a plane or surface with regular repeating units is a very simple idea, but it's absolutely fundamental to mathematics, and the reason is that it's about symmetry. What Escher does with this rather simple, stark, abstract mathematics is to add a human dimension and a fantastical dimension. He has little animals, little lizards, dragon-like creatures, funny little men, goblins, and things like that. And he uses those for the shapes of his tiles. Escher's work really divides into two different periods. His early work is intuitive, no contact with mathematicians, he's interested in tessellations, and that's about it. After he made contact with mathematicians, it becomes much deeper mathematically. You get all sorts of sophisticated structures. He's interested in dimension, in the shape of space, the topology of space, in infinity. Cosmologists think that our universe might actually be Escher-shaped. So some of Escher's work may have anticipated very deep features of modern cosmology.
Using only basic drawing tools, he created Circle Limit 3, an astonishingly accurate representation of space as it edges towards infinity. Nearly 40 years later, mathematicians confirmed that it was absolutely right to the last millimetre. Escher was excited by the work of mathematicians such as Roger Penrose, who created the impossible triangle. He was also fascinated by the unusual properties of the Mobius strip, an object that appears to have only one side.
What's fascinating about visual illusions to everybody is that they show us that we don't just perceive the world as it is. Our brains actually interpret what they perceive and make assumptions about what they're seeing. Escher's visual illusions give that part of our brain a real workout. What is this thing we're looking at? What am I seeing here?
Escher was inspired by this to create some of his most famous works, images that look convincing yet defy logic. The concepts of infinity, reflection, and the nature of visual perception were to intrigue Escher until his death in 1972, and his legacy lives on.
If you wander around university mathematics departments, you will find Escher pictures all over the place. You'll even find them in the textbooks, because they really do talk to mathematicians. And from today's perspective, I think mathematicians understand much more clearly what it was Escher was trying to do, to the extent we can actually write down formulas for some of the things that he does, and we can investigate what mathematical ideas lie behind them. Mathematicians know their subject's beautiful. Escher shows us that it's beautiful.
All right, we'll get back to our slide. Okay, so that is what MC has done by combining mathematics in developing his visual work. Right. So then when we have engineering meets art, okay, especially civil engineers, all right, you actually have work deal with architectural drawing. So what you could see here, I'm actually using lines. I've shown some lines here to show there is a connection between the linear perspective in a mathematical system for creating the illusion of space and distance on a flat surface. So this was actually invented by a famous architect, the Renaissance architect, which is known to be Filippo Brunelleschi, where this concept of perspective was eventually were used by Marcasio in the Holy Trinity of his painting, where through the Brunelleschi's discovery, he actually used linear perspective in his art as well. So this is where I call engineering meets the art. So moving on, okay, when we have the technology actually meets with the art, all right? So both art and technology define and continue to reshape the world we live in now, all right? So what you could see in modern days, we see a lot of museums now currently. They are much more interactive because of the technology advancement, where such like digital art, you have kinetic art, where works that explored in the World Wide Web, all right, and online existence. So I will show a very interesting video by a significant post-impressionist artist. This was more of a digital exhibition where the technology met the art.
Starry, starry night, flaming flowers that brightly blaze, swirling clouds of violet haze, reflecting Vincent's eyes of china blue, colors changing hue. Morning fields of amber grain, weathered faces lined in pain, are soothed beneath the artist's loving hand. Now I understand what you try to say to me, and how you suffered for your sanity, and how you tried to set them free. They would not listen, they did not know how. Perhaps they'll listen now, for they could not love you. Still love was true, and when no hope was left inside on that starry, starry night, you took your life as lovers often do. But I could have told you, Vincent, this world was never meant for one as beautiful as you. Starry, starry night, portraits hung in empty halls, frameless heads on nameless walls, with eyes that watch the world and can't forget, like the strangers that you've met. The ragged men in ragged clothes, a silver thorn, a bloody rose, like crushed and broken on the virgin snow. Now I think I know what you try to say to me, how you suffered for your sanity, how you try to set them free. They would not listen, they're not listening still. Perhaps they'll never will. Starry, starry night, Starry, starry night.
Right, so we actually saw how the art works with technology, art works with engineering, art works with mathematics, and art works with another field, technology. So we actually could see that art is just not art per se, but it actually collaborates well with other field of education as well. So I would like to say that the purpose of art, actually art can uplift, provoke, soothe, entertain, and educate us in an important part of our lives. All right, so we deal art every day. It's just that we are not aware of our society. Okay, so at its most profound level, it takes us from the everyday to a place of introspection and contemplation, where you will see the world in a bigger picture of a human condition. So what I would say, think children don't need art in the 21st century. Please think again, because art has wonderful, amazing connection for the four aspects, what I call science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. All right. So that's the end of my presentation for today. So I would like to actually, participants, you can actually join the Kahoot. I will actually share with you the pin code for Kahoot quiz, right? Let me share the screen. So you can actually get the pin number. So I would like you to actually go into Kahoot. Okay, this is your number. All right, you can actually join www.kahoot.it. The number is 1350316. So I will actually, once you have gone, I will actually, you can start playing the game, yeah? Please actually register. Okay, you can actually start your game. All right, we have a winner here. Is Alvin. Alvin, please give your name to the MC. All right. Okay, thank you so much. All right, congratulations for the winner. Okay, I would like to actually end my topic for today. Hope it's beneficial, right? So thank you so much. So I will end a very significant quote by an Italian high Renaissance artist, which is called Michelangelo. A man paints with his brains and not with his hands. All right. So thank you very much for listening to my presentation, and it was just on time. All right. Thank you so much. MC?
Yes, Dr. Mai.
It's to you. Anyone would be interested to pose a question?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Mai. Now we will proceed with the Q&A session. Just a reminder, please type your questions in the chat box. Dear participants, kindly fill out the sign-up form as well as the feedback form after the webinar.
Thank you, thank you.
Now, we would like to take a group photo with everyone in this webinar. Please turn on your camera and stand by. Everyone ready? 3, 2, 1, smile. Okay, let's take another one in freestyle. Ready? 3, 2, 1, smile. Thank you, everyone. Dr. Mike, is there anything that you would like to cover before we wrap up?
No, I think I've covered up to make everyone understand that art can be also will be in engineering, science, mathematics, and also technology. So I think if there's no art, there is no world with vision. So I hope that we are looking at STEM education in future. We hope that the alphabet A will be given privilege as well as all the other field as well, so that we will grow together. How Da Vinci has actually innovated his interesting findings from his sketches and drawings. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, I do agree with you. Okay, thank you, Dr. Mai, for the insightful webinar. Dear participants, please join us for the next step webinar titled Power Up Your Memory on the coming Thursday at 9:30 a.m. Thank you and stay safe.